I'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Simons,
Here.
Freehand is here. Mr. Boda,
Here.
Mr. Blackstock,
Here.
Mrs. Blair,
Here.
Mr. Horn,
Be excused.
excused, and Mr. Vatsalez.
Here.
You have a quorum,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Kathy, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You're welcome. Okay. Moving on to the approval of the agenda. I would just like to add under G, for project control engineering, they're going to talk about the Point Drive sanitary sewer, and they've also gave us estimates for the two lift station bypasses that we have, and you got that before you, so we'll probably be talking about that when PCE gets here. All right, so we need a motion, or is there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
If there are no additions or deletions, I'll make a motion that we accept the agenda as presented.
With that addition
With the addition to G.
of the lift
Support.
stations. So it's been moved and supported that we approve the agenda with the addition of the two lift stations estimates. Any further comments? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next, we have the approval of the minutes of October 15, 2018.
I'll make a motion, if there are no additions or corrections, that we approve the minutes of October 15, 2018.
Support.
We have a motion and a support that we approve the minutes of October 15th. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Moving on to public comment, is there anybody in the audience that would like to talk about anything that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have 1, October 2018 St. Clair River and Water Authority minutes. 2 is the August 2018 Park Commission minutes. 3 is the September 2018 Park Commission minutes. 4 is the October 2018 Park Commission minutes. 5 is the October 2018 Building Department report. And 6 is the October 2018 Marine City Fire Authority.
If there are no additions or deletions, I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported that we accept the consent agenda as read. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the disbursements. We have invoices of $130,933.59. We have accounts payable of $192,232.57. We have a payroll direct deposit of $31,323.03. We have a payroll of $44.04. We have EFT payments of $35,911.72. We have a total tax account of $10,333.55 for a total disbursement of $400,778.50.
I'll make a motion that we pay the total disbursements of $400,778.50.
I'll support that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to pay the bills of the sum of $400,777.50. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Vatsalez,
Yes.
Mrs. Blair,
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock,
Yes.
Mr. Boda,
Yes.
Freehand votes yes. Mr. Simons,
Yes. Motion carries, we pay the bills. All right, moving on to new business. A, 2019 budget workshop. We'd like to set a date for the workshop. I'd like to do it within the next 2 weeks before our next meeting, because we got to have a public hearing is our next thing. Is there a preferred time that you'd like to meet for this workshop, or what's your schedule, Kathy?
I probably couldn't do it till after 5:30.
5:30?
Santa's delivering a lot.
I mean, that works for me. Does it work for everybody else?
Doesn't make any difference this time.
I didn't bring my phone as far as the calendar. What days do we have there? Next week? I mean, or we can do it this week? I mean, we don't want to do it Friday, so that takes Friday out.
Well, Tuesday be out too because of the election, so.
Yeah,
it's either
Tuesday's
Wednesday or
out.
Thursday.
What's your Thursday?
Bob will probably be on the couch all day Wednesday, so.
And Thursday evenings, this evening, this week
All
are
right.
bad for me.
How about next Monday? We could do it then and still have, next Monday work for, did you make it Monday?
Week from today?
Yeah, what day is that? Today's the
Veterans Day.
5th, be the 12th. huh?
Veterans Day,
Veterans Day, does that matter?
Does that work for you, Cindy?
It does for me, we'll have to check with Corinne, she's.
Yeah, she said she's pretty flexible this week, but
That's our day off though, next week. That's Veterans Day.
that's what?
That's Veterans Day.
So the
her day
offices are
off.
closed.
Oh, we're closed?
how about
Yeah, That
Tuesday?
wouldn't be a good day.
Tuesday the 13th?
Tuesday, the 13th, yeah. Does that work for everybody?
What date?
Tuesday, the 13th of November
Yeah, nothing on it.
at 5:30?
Tuesday, the 13th,
Here at the hall.
okay, at 5:30.
And we'll put a notice up on the board, that'll be open to the public. Okay. So is everybody fine with that? I guess we need a motion to make the workshop on,
I'll make a motion that we set the date for the 2019 budget workshop for Tuesday, November 13th at 5:30 PM.
okay.
Support.
We have a motion to support that we're gonna have the budget workshop on Tuesday, the 13th at 5:30. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the 2019 budget public hearing, which I believe we normally have that 15 minutes before our meeting, which will be on the 19th. I think that's the following Monday, isn't it, the 19th?
Yes.
So I'm suggesting we have it, we can call it 7 o'clock on that Monday. That'll give us a half hour. So it would be Monday, 19th at 7 o'clock. Public hearing. Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
I'll make the motion, we set the date and time for the 2019 budget public hearing on November 19th at 7 PM.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion and a support to set the public hearing for Monday, the 19th of November at 7 o'clock. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item C, reassignment of employee to fill vacancy permanently. It's in your packet there, it's employees 56. We're gonna move to the other position.
I will make a motion to move employee 56 to fill the vacant utility billing accounts receivable position.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion and a support. Any further discussion?
Is she gonna be also doing the water billing part of it?
Yep.
Okay. Utility bill, okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, no more discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We move her. All right, next we have Bryson Woodland Lavely Lane Limestone Application Agreement. As you know, we've had a lot of problems with that. We haven't put any stone on it. We've just been grading it for the last year or better. As you know, we surveyed it, we did the typographical. We haven't went any further with that part of it. It just seems like the summer got away from us and we didn't do anything, but I think we should do something for that road because it's beyond grading now. We gotta put some stone on it. So I had the county give us an estimate to put the stone on it and grade it out. And he's talking about putting 350 ton of 22A limestone on there. It's gonna cost us about $6,000. We haven't budgeted for that, but I believe we can find the money in the budget, either in the contingency fund or township improvement fund or one of those, to fund it. Do you have any input on that, Cindy? You're probably not real familiar with that, what we're talking about, but,
I've been on the roads.
yeah.
When was the last time we put limestone on there, do you remember?
Well, we've put a load here, a load there. We've never,
Never went over, okay.
as long as I've been involved with the township, I can't remember us doing anything. If you take a ride down that Woodland, I mean,
Yeah, it's
dirt.
bad, yeah.
I mean, if
Years
Mr.
ago.
Horn was here, he could really verify all that we're talking about here, but I just think we gotta do something, and we gotta do it before it starts to freeze.
Years ago, we
You did, Don?
did stone.
Do you
You can't-
remember how long it, excuse me,
Yeah, I don't know how.
do you
How long
remember how long it
It's
lasted?
been a number of years ago, it's been quite a while.
But did it last very long?
Well, it's been like 15 years that I can remember. I think it's way overdue.
Okay,
I mean, we put a little bit in holes.
I would say closer to 20.
20 years, he's thinking, so, I mean, but, I mean, we've done a lot of grading, we've done a lot of grading to it, but as you know, there's probably no base there. It was cottages, and now there's a lot of houses that used to have, 6 or 8 or a dozen people, now there's 2 dozen, 3 dozen people that live down there. So it gets a lot more traffic now than it did 10 years ago. Another new house just went up down there. So, that's what I'm proposing. I mean, Blaine's been down there a lot too. He knows what it is. He's been trimming trees. Yeah, I mean, and this is not gonna be no massive, we're not gonna be building it up 2-3 inches. It's just gonna be the bare minimum. But I really think we need some of that first couple hundred feet there. That seems to be the worst area. That's the area that traveled the most, because it's a dead-end road.
I'll make a motion that, we work through the county to take 350 ton of 22-way limestone for Bryson, Woodland, and Lavely roads at a cost not to exceed $6,000.
I will support that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to apply that 350 ton to Woodland, Lavely, and Bryson Lane. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Freehand votes yes. Mr. Boda?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mrs. Blair?
Yes.
And Mr. Patsalis?
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, now we're moving on to new business, item E, Telto Contracting Restoration quote following the Hathaway sewer repair. I guess to bring you up to speed on that, we had this sewer problem on Hathaway Street. We had to go down to the main, which was down about, 18 feet, and the riser was broke off right at the main. And then we had to bore underneath the road, or no?
They dug through the road
Underneath the road?
on the property.
And it was a massive dig. I mean, it was huge. We had to dig up part of Hathaway, the street itself, plus driveways, couple driveways, one driveway?
And curb on each side of the
Yeah.
road.
But the bids you see there, and I'll let Blaine explain those. Want to go up to the podium, Blaine? Blaine got a quote from Telto.
I got a quote from Telto, they did the digging up there, I got a quote from them on the restoration. And there's also a quote from Jelsh Paving, just to replace the asphalt there. This time of the year, we're running out of time to get the road fixed up before winter, and pretty soon the asphalt plants will be closing down. So we can either fix the road now, as they've quoted, or we can just put a cap on it for the winter, an asphalt cap, a couple inches, so we don't have stone up and down the road from the plowing over the winter, and deal with it in the spring. But we can't just let it sit like that with the stone on it over winter.
Well, do you feel it's gonna settle?
It will settle some, as they feel that they compacted it with their machine, so it will settle some, but it should be fairly firm.
So you think we could go ahead and put the curb in?
I believe so.
What if you don't think it'll settle and break the curb and all that?
Seeing the way they packed it in there, and it's all stone and sand, I believe it'll hold up.
But what Blaine's saying here is if you look at the Telto contract, he's got the asphalt in here at, is that the 8,300?
Yeah, 83, 950.
Yeah. And then if you look over at the other quote from Jelsh, he's willing to do that work for 6,800, so there's a savings there of, you know.
So, all right.
Are these two separate quotes? Is that what this is?
Yes.
For the same job, two separate quotes?
But no, only, the one from Jelsh is only for the asphalt. The one from Telto is to do the whole job, because we still
The
got,
asphalt and everything else.
we still have to do the, replace the concrete driveway, mulch and seed,
So the Gels
and repair the
contract,
curb.
the Gels contract will be in place of the 8369? Is that what we're saying?
Is that what you're saying, Blaine?
Yes.
It would be in place of the 8369?
Yeah.
And Telto's willing to work with that too? They don't want the whole
I
thing?
haven't discussed it with them yet. I would have liked to have gotten more quotes on the whole project, but I'm running out of time, and we're really busy right now.
I think we might have to talk to Telto to see if, I mean, would they raise their price? Do you think they would raise their price if you take away part of their bid?
I couldn't say, but it is
Because right now, it looks like
possible.
a $1,500 savings, but if Telto says if we don't get the whole job, then he might raise the price.
I would imagine that Telto's gonna contract that out, subcontract that, wouldn't you?
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, this has been an expensive sewer
Right.
repair.
Right.
What was it, 16,000, and then it ballooned up to,
It was slightly over that, yes, by the time it was all said and done.
because of the depth and what they found out when they got down there. So,
So you say you're running out of time.
We're running out of
So,
time until they stop making asphalt for the year.
That's what that's my,
it's usually the second week in November, getting up within the next week or two.
but
And at this time, maybe just putting a cap over it for the winter would be the way to go. Just to let it finish settling out and then reevaluate in the spring, get more prices on it.
reevaluate, do the other parts that you're
Yes, and then
talking
do
about?
the whole
Who
thing
can do
then.
the cap, yet, Jelsh?
I could talk with them about it or talk to the road commission, see if they have time to get it in. But at least having a couple inches of asphalt there would save having to rake up the stone from up and down the street as it gets plowed over the winter, and save from getting potholes in it.
Is that what you would recommend, Blaine?
With the time we're dealing with, I think that'd probably be the best way to go. Just cap it and go in the spring and get more prices on it.
There's nothing that's going to be compromised by not doing anything.
No.
In the 6,800, that would be, it would be sufficient, and if it is firm, then it's, not the 6,800, but if the subsurface is firm, it will hold up over the winter time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just gonna put a couple inches on it, right?
And
Normally, it's
About
4 or
4 or
6.
5
They're going to
inches there.
excavate 4 inches and then put cap
Yes,
on it and
and
all
then
that.
fill
So
in over it.
theoretically, it will be a, if, as you say, it is firm, then it should hold up and it should be pretty
It should
in good
last.
condition by springtime.
So the Jel's contract would be strictly, we could cap it with the Jel for that $6,800, is that what it would be?
That would be for 4 inches. You could always do less asphalt on it as a temporary cap, or
Oh,
just, or
okay,
just do
okay.
the full depth of the asphalt for the winter.
And then come back and put whatever additional cap on it next spring?
Yeah, and then do the curbs in the spring too. The hard part is doing the concrete curbs after your asphalt is in there, because the way it joins together and meets each other. You might have to redo the edges where the curb would be, where if we did the curb in the spring, we'd have to touch up the edges and maybe cut some out and refill it in, just so it's a nice seam there, but
Okay.
We may end up having to redo the asphalt anyway. You don't know what it's going to do over the winter time.
Settle, yeah.
it may settle.
There may need to be some work done then anyway.
Mhm.
So we don't know what the price would be to just do a 2-inch.
And I do not.
I would think it'd be way less than the 6,800. Wouldn't you think, Blaine?
I would think so.
But are you going to have time to get that cost? I mean, what are we going to approve tonight? You want some approval as quickly as possible,
Yes,
because they're going to stop making asphalt. When you talk about the county, what do we don't really know whether or not they're going to be able to do anything either. Is Jelsh committed to doing this? I mean, if we were
they
to
said
award
they could
this
fit- They
tonight,
could still fit it in.
they're ready to roll?
They're not tomorrow, but they've got time in their schedule to try to get it
And we
in.
also have the county that does some of that for us, too.
They have done some of the asphalt work for us, yes.
I mean, we could let Blaine compare the two, and
I could talk to the county and to Joel, see if, just what it would take just to get it covered up for the winter.
Larry, what is your ability to approve things? What's your max?
1,500, I mean, I would think we should give them like 2,500 or 3,000, you know. I mean, that would be less than half of what Jelsh is asking to do the whole thing. But I think the county will do it for less than, what do you think?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, we're just guessing.
Well, the concern is also whether or not they could get to it in time. You have no idea what their
No,
availability
I
is
do
either.
not.
Yeah, we may have to go with Jelsh. I mean, you can give me I would think you could give me the permission to.
And I would just do that. If we don't have a price, and you need it right away, just make a motion that we give the supervisor the authority to approve a cap to get us through the winter.
To do the patch, yeah. I don't know how else to do it. I mean, do you have any input, Cindy, on how to do this?
Similar to what we did before, you got an estimate not to exceed maybe with the authorization for the
Yeah.
supervisor to sign up for that.
Like, so I'm saying like $3,000 or
Yeah,
something.
okay,
like that.
not to exceed $3,000 for
Okay.
an emergency repair on the road until the spring.
Okay, and if it does more, I can do a poll the board with a phone survey or something like that. All right, so that, we have a motion to allow the supervisor to okay it up to $3,000 to do a patch on Hathaway.
I'll
Good.
support that.
That's, Mr. Blackstock, that's your motion?
Yeah. And then you'll check with the county, you'll check with Jelsh, you'll
Right.
check with Telto and see who's cheaper.
You have a motion, you have a support.
We have a motion and support. Is there any further discussion?
Who made the motion, Blackstock, and who made?
Mr.
And
Blackstock, did.
Kathy, Herb and Kathy.
They require a roll call.
And next will be a roll call.
Okay, Mr. Blackstock,
Yes.
Mrs. Blair,
Yes.
Mr. Patsalas?
Yes.
Mr. Boda?
Yes.
Freehand votes yes. Mr. Simons?
Yes, motion carries. All right. So that really took in E and F also. So next we have G, Project Control Engineering, Point Drive Sanitary Service Lines. And they didn't show up, I guess. I don't know, we must have some kind of mix-up here, but, you can see what that is there, and maybe Blaine want to explain that. We're talking about, if you look at your little picture there, I think it's manhole 60 to 61, 300 and some feet.
Yes. The price that they have there is an engineer's estimate on what it would cost to do trenchless rehabilitation on a section of that sewer main. There's 4 taps there that are broke that we found in all the cameraing we did last spring. And versus digging up each yard and having the mess of digging it and all the restoration, we looked at some options to do it all internal rehab on the pipe. Once they looked at the pipe, they determined that the best way to go would be to line the whole section of main because of all the leaks they found in each joint of the sewer main itself. So their recommendation would be to line the main and then go through and line 4 taps on there that are starting to crack.
Now, does that go up and cut all that calcium out of there too?
They go through and clean the main out first, get all the calcium cut out of it, then they put the liner in the main, and then they go back through to each tap and cut the hole out for each service for the sewage to come in from the houses. And then they would go to the taps that are broken or cracked, and they would put a liner in each of those up the riser pipe to seal the crack and stop any infiltration.
So they have to go up and cut all that stuff out of there, don't they, in the
Yes.
tap?
Yep,
In the individual yards.
in each yard, yes. They do need to have a clean out on each one of those service lines for each house too. That has to be worked on. That way they can have a camera and a way to jet each service line out and watch as they're putting their patches in.
I mean, and this is just the tip of the iceberg of what we,
It's just the beginning. These are just figures of what we're gonna see as we look at the rest of that service area. There's, from the end of Point Drive to Recor Road, you've got main on both sides of the street, and it's all looks pretty much the same. You've got some good taps, some good sections of sewer main, some taps that are cracked and starting to separate. We went through a heck of a time digging everything up and getting it all restored last spring and this summer. So just another way to look at it is doing this internal work. It's expensive, but you don't have the restoration. At the very least, it's something we can start looking at the numbers to prepare for next year's budget and moving forward.
but I mean, if we did 300 and some feet every year at 95,000, I mean, you say we got close to a mile, I mean, that's gonna be an astronomical number when you do the math on that. Should we be looking at options to maybe replace the main and dig it up and
We
be
can take a look
done?
at those numbers as well, absolutely.
I mean, wouldn't it be cheaper to do the whole project than to piecemeal it? I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there.
It may be, this is just something I started looking into, trying to find other options versus digging up each line individually.
And is this something they can do in the winter too, if we decide to do it?
The cold weather does impact their ability to work on it. As their lines freeze up, they have a harder time doing it, so I don't believe they work all winter long. Once it really starts to cool down, they stop for the year.
Real quick, when this failed, do we know what caused it to fail? Is it settlement in that sewer line?
It was the settlement. It was the Ys cracking at the main, and the riser was dropping down, which allowed the water and dirt to come into the sewer system.
So we're gonna line a sewer that's sinking. What's the potential for it just cracking again?
I don't know.
That's what we're saying, we really don't know the cause of what's snapping all those risers off.
We do know that the risers and the Ys were not backfilled the way they should have been. There was just sand on the bottom side of the Ys. There wasn't a concrete or sand, or a concrete or stone base underneath them to help support the weight of the riser. And the liner, I'm told, is supposed to be 1.5 times stronger than the hose pipe that it's put into. So the thin liner is supposed to be stronger than the clay pipe.
How old is this particular section?
I believe it was 59.
59, yeah. I don't know, it just seems like a lot of money to just do 300 feet. I mean, if we're gonna bite off some of it, I think we should bite off a bigger chunk than that and get once they gear up to whatever they're gonna do. But then again, like Herb says, we really don't know the reason, the cause. Is it gonna just crack again?
And I asked the engineers what their thoughts were on how we should proceed and how to rehab this, and this is what they suggested. So it's just taking a look at the numbers.
When, if this were approved now, would they be able to do anything? Would a contractor be able to do anything?
I've been told yes. The last time I spoke with them, they said that they would still have time this year.
I mean, we don't have any contractors' bids at this point.
No.
Now, that would be the next step. It would have to be bid out for quotes.
That process basically would take you into wintertime.
Yeah.
So there's not a likelihood that there's going to be much done.
I can't say for sure how long these guys work.
And the taps are still functioning now,
Yes,
right?
the taps still are functioning,
And the worst scenario is if one of them were to fail completely, we'd have to go in and dig it up.
yes.
So is this an emergency repair? Because it says emergency repair, so it's not really an emergency.
It's not really an emergency.
don't think
They
it
are
is.
functioning currently.
And this came about, just so I understand, when the flooding happened.
Yes.
This-
That's when we first took a look at that section. That was our next area to look at. We knew there was gonna be some issues there, but we had no idea the amount of issues that we'd find there.
Okay.
Larry, how much time would we need to get a price to see what it would cost us to repair that whole, put a
Well, that's
whole
what I mean.
new
That
line
would
in?
be the next thing. And then it's gonna be a
How long
large,
do you think it would take to do something like that? Because I think either way, we're not gonna get much done this winter as it is.
We could probably get some quotes together within 2 weeks, but as far as the availability on other contractors being able to come out here,
Right,
I
right.
couldn't say.
Well, I think at that point, we'd have to probably wait till the spring, I think at that, and then just either do the whole thing.
and I really think if we're gonna have something, we should have a public hearing on this. This is gonna destroy so many yards. And is this what the people want? I mean, I think we have to do it, I
The
think.
impact to the yard should be minimal. It should be mostly be hoses going across the yards. And,
No, I mean, if we dig it up and
yeah,
put a new line
versus
in.
digging up, yes.
This is a liner. They're proposing that it be
Yes,
lined
a
so that,
fiberglass liner.
so there'd be minimal disruption
Yeah,
to the yards. It'd
as
just
far
be a
as to the
bypass
yards.
hose for a temporary.
Larry, what's the total length? What's the total length of that? Is it the whole length of Point
We
Drive?
thought it's just about a mile, isn't it?
Oh, roughly. I don't
around a
remember
mile?
that footage
Okay,
offhand.
all right.
So that's what, over 5,000 feet. And we're looking at 300 here. I think I agree with what Blaine said. It's not deemed an emergency right now. I mean, the worst scenario, we'd have to go in and dig up like we dug up how many last February?
15 last spring.
How many did we do?
15.
15?
Yep.
And this would answer 4 of them. Well, they would put that on every one of them. They put the liner on every riser or just the ones that are broke?
Just the ones that look like they have a crack in them, or you could see infiltration coming in through the joints.
What did our Canberra people think of it? Did we get a synopsis from them on what they thought needed to be
He
fixed?
did recommend some sort of internal work, whether it be grouting or lining. But after seeing how much we had, how many issues we have, he did recommend something internal versus trying to dig up each one individually.
I guess my question also would be, if we did 900 feet, would we get a reduced rate because they're here, they're set up?
The more you do, the price does go down. Each setup would bring the price down a little bit, just with doing more taps.
And then again, we're looking at the asset management group that we've got formed and, you know, try to set some money aside for this. We've seeded it a little bit right now. I think we got 125,000 in that. So that might be something we would want to wait until we've got more money set aside to cover that. And if we have an emergency, I guess we have to dig it up and fix that one or two or whatever we have. We don't know what the river's gonna do this winter. I mean, the water hasn't went down any, it's still up there high.
No, it's
Isn't
down
it?
now. It's
Well, it
down.
usually goes down in October a little bit,
Yeah, it's down right now, probably about 7 inches.
7 inches, okay. So anyway, it's up to the board what you wanna do. Like I say, we haven't, these are just estimates of what they're thinking it's gonna cost. They've went out and talked to different contractors or a contractor and got some kind of quotes.
So I guess you're looking for us to approve the engineering? These aren't bids, it's just estimates. So is it the first phase to get the engineers to start getting us quotes, or what are you looking for us to?
What did we ask them, Blaine? You asked them to give you this, and did they give us a price to
Give
do
me
it?
a price on a section, just to see what kind of numbers we'd be looking at, if it was something
Is
feasible
that
for
this
this
price
year
that's
or
in here,
not.
this,
That's the price that, the estimate they gave me was a lot higher than what we were anticipating. We were just looking at lining each of the taps and not the entire main. So there's added cost to that, that puts it over what I was expecting to see.
but what Herb's asking, are you asking Herb if it's the,
I don't think that's an accurate price. I still think they have to put it out for bids and
Yeah, you gotta
everything.
get numbers from contractors. This is just their opinion of
Yeah,
cost.
this is their,
So are you asking for us to approve our engineer to release this for bids, or what are you looking for us to decide on?
I guess we gotta decide if that's the route we wanna go.
right, if we're,
Is that what you think, Blaine? We have to, like Blaine just said, we were thinking about just doing the taps and not doing the main.
Yeah, if this is what they recommend, that would be the best way to go about fixing all this, then we would have to get bids on it and make it a bigger plan, or break it down into sections to see what we can afford to do each year.
I think we should probably table it until we find out what we wanna do here, what direction we wanna go with more information than, now we know 300 feet is $100,000. Which, we could figure out how much it's gonna cost to fix it all.
would the engineers do that? Would they give us a price for that?
They
Find out
give
what it
us
would
an
cost to fix the
estimate.
whole mile, and what it would cost to replace it.
Yes. Yep, they
I
can do
mean,
that.
either way, and then maybe they can give us a bid to, like, even in thirds, if we do it in thirds.
Right.
So maybe if we get a price to do it in thirds, get a price to do the whole thing, and then get a price to replace it. And then we could see where we wanna go with that.
They were supposed to be here tonight, but I don't know why they
Yeah.
didn't show up. Something must have happened. Those were the questions we were gonna ask them. I mean, we really don't have to do any action on this right now if we don't want to.
I'll make a motion that we table it until our next meeting, if we can have the engineer here.
I'll support.
Or if the engineer can't be here, if he can get us the information that we're asking for, at least we have something so we can keep moving on it, so it doesn't sit, back, because we're gonna have to know how much we're gonna, especially with the budget coming up, what we're gonna have to budget for this.
Right, and then that's where the asset management, when we start having that, seeing where that's going to, that'll help us
Right.
with some of the money, if that's what we wanna do, but there's a lot of things that asset management's gotta
Yeah,
cover.
but like Wayne said, the bigger job you do, the cheaper the price would be.
Right.
So, I mean, if it's all damaged, we're gonna have to replace it, might as well tackle that horse right away.
So what you're saying is we really want an estimate on the entire mile?
The entire mile,
Yeah.
to just repair it, then break it down into thirds, and then what it would cost to replace the whole water main, to put a new water main in, a new sewer, I mean.
Because this is only 300 feet, so
Right.
break it into thirds, you're really looking at 1,500 feet, almost 3 times this, or 5 times this.
About 5 times this.
a 1,800 feet would be a third of a mile, 1,700 feet, somewhere around there. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you're going to get some pretty good idea of what's going to happen, as Larry was saying, with asset management, looking at replacing lines that need to be replaced and what it's going to cost. And I think it's a good idea to get an estimated cost of what it would be for the entire mile, and then breaking it into whatever component.
Right.
Third
Because
would
I'm
be-
sure the engineers would love to do it at 300 feet at a time at this price.
Oh,
I mean,
my
They would love to
God.
do that, so.
But I would agree with you. I think probably a third of a mile might be at least an increment that makes more sense.
Right.
And gives us a better idea than just 300 feet.
Right, I agree.
Although the 300 feet is the critical part, but we anticipate that there's eventually going to have to do more than 300 feet.
Yes.
How many did we identify, taps that were,
I
Some
don't-
of 'em are
I don't
working,
remember
but-
offhand. This section was picked because there was 4 taps within between 2 manholes that wouldn't require a lot of setup for the guys doing the lining. The closer you can get them, the faster they would be able to do them. So that's why we picked this section over others.
okay, well, we have a motion and a support to table. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So are we gonna try to get more information?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that what
what-
we're gonna try to do? Okay.
Blaine's gonna work on that? All right.
Mr. Simons, you had an addition to the agenda for this for.
Yeah, oh, excuse me, yeah.
Estimates for 2 lift station bypass.
All right, well, we tabled the one on the Point Drive sanitary sewers. The other thing I put on there was this was what they sent us on the 2 lift stations. This would be the Meisner Road lift station and the Springborn Bell River lift station. These are both stations that go underneath the river. What do they call them? Pressurized, where they shoot it through?
Force main.
Forced main. This is just to put a bypass around the station by going underneath the river. Right now, let's just look at Meisner Road. Is that the first one? Yeah, Meisner Road Pump Station. That Meisner Road, the sewer line is actually attached to the bridge. In talking to the road commission, they're gonna redeck that bridge in 2020. And they told me that any costs that were incurred with that sewer line on the side of the bridge would have to be given to us. So eventually, I mean, it works fine on the bridge. It's
Yes.
been there for how many years? Since 62 probably, but, we probably should get it underneath the river. I think Mr. Boda said they tried it years ago.
And then they hit pilings from the old bridge. They pulled the drill out and came up with, pieces of oak on
Oh, yeah?
the drill head.
Well, anyways, they're saying now that with the new technology, they can go right under that, there's no problem. But should be in place before we rebuild the station. But Blaine and I had a little conversation today about this, and I suggested maybe we should, well, Blaine said maybe we should make it a wet station, a submersible.
You can make it a submersible station versus having the old can there, the dry pit with the pumps down there. This might be a candidate just to completely convert it over to a wet well station where you have submersible pumps and a wet well.
Because it's so close to the river that the can floods, they have to sandbag the can, right?
Mhm.
And then I suggested maybe we can move the station to a drier area, like on the corner of Bell River and Meisner, which never floods up there. You know, why couldn't we make a new station up there if we're gonna spend all this money? But without having the engineer here to know. But this is what they want, this is what they're estimating, their opinion about $134,332, to bypass that station and go underneath the Bell River. Everybody understands what the bypass is? Okay. Then the next one is the Bell River Pump Station over on Bell River and Springboard. Blaine had a comment about that, because that line was put in 2000?
It was early 2000s that force
We're
main
talking
was
about the
put in.
line underneath Bell River.
It's a 4-inch HDPE pipe, but we should have a lot of life left on it. I believe that they were suggesting a new bore or a new line underneath the river there to avoid digging up most of Bell River Road to do a tie-in. They're unsure of how the pipe configuration is, if it comes right out of the station and goes across the river, or if there's a jog in it, and they were concerned about having to dig up the whole road, or most of the road, just a hook and a bypass. Because the problem with that station is if the pumps go down, how do we get the sewage across the river? Do we just throw hoses in the river and let it sink to the bottom and hook the pumps up to it? Which we really can't do. If a hose comes apart or starts leaking, it's not gonna work. So this is just looking at a way to put in a portable pump there, pump out of the wet well and hook directly to a force main and push it underneath the river. Is why we're looking at this.
Why would we just bore a 6-inch line underneath there? I mean, we've got a policy now where we don't do anything less than an 8-inch water line. Why would we do a 6-inch sewer line?
That can accommodate the amount of sewage that goes through there at that station's capacity.
Oh,
Is there, thinking towards the future, should it be a bigger line?
that's what I'm saying, because we have all that development over there, that's our potential big development is over that area.
Yeah.
We're throttled there right now. That's how those mitigated wetlands got over there, because we can't supply sewers to anybody.
The problem going forward with that is the downstream stations and the downstream main. It can only handle so much,
Yeah, the urban drive and all that.
from Urban Drive to Point Drive to Recor. Even if the pumps can handle it, we don't know if the mains can. That's a question for the engineer, if the mains can actually handle the flow.
I think one time we talked in that area about putting a sewer line down the bike trail to the sewer plant, then that would open all the development up.
Right.
If that's what we decide to do. I mean, you know what you
There
got with
are
your
different variations. They talked about the bike path, and they're also talking to.
King Road.
King Road to Meisner, and then come down Meisner, but
Isn't there also the power line easement?
the power line easement was another
Oh, is
easement we
it?
talked about, yes.
Yeah, there's about three proposals.
Yeah, that's another option there, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, these are, again, are just, I asked them for this is what they gave us. This is what they're suggesting. Now, I guess it's up to us to decide what we want to do with this. Again, this is not an emergency that has to, we're probably not, he thought if we got this approved tonight, we could start on this
I
right
think the
away.
cheapest plan was 3
I
million.
think I got questions that I'd like to ask them. I think Blaine's got questions, so.
Well, I think they called that, well, I just talked National Lake. They talked about bringing the sewer line up King Road to Recor, down Recor to the plant. They were calling that the Cadillac plant, way trim was.
Cadillac plant? And that involves another lift station to go underneath Bell River too.
They said, that's what they were quoting. They said that was one quote, and they said that was like the Cadillac plant.
We actually found that quote in the archives. I think back then it was like $3 million.
Yeah, it was expensive, very
So it's
expensive.
probably $8 million today.
I was gonna say, it's probably a lot more than that. That would have been, what, 25 years ago?
Yeah.
But that was talked a little bit with China when they have the problem they have down there in King Road.
Right.
And they're looking to
They
go to
wanted to
Reed
see the
City.
Cadillac plant, but they weren't paying for any of it.
But most of that property on King Road belongs to China. It's not East China.
Yeah, so it's west.
Well, that's what they're saying,
West
if
side.
they would, it would travel the power lines, it wouldn't go into China, it would come
Right.
straight across.
Just west side of Kingwood's where those sewers were, the state wanted to take those stations out.
Yeah.
But
But we got this estimate anyway, so.
do we need to make can we just file this?
What do you think we should do with this, Blaine? I mean, is this an emergency? This is not an emergency situation. I think
Not an
Miser Road
emergency.
has to be done before 2020, because that's when they're gonna do the bridge. I'd like to look at making it a wet station, submersibles. I'm talking
That's
about
the
Miser.
ultimate goal. That's what the township should be working towards, is just making them all wet well stations, getting rid of the old cans, getting the pumps out of there. That way you eliminate the confined space dangers. You hook your cable to a chain to pull your pump up and work on. You don't have to go down there and mess around down there.
And another big thing on that Miser Road station, if they were to do something with the school system over there, they may need a lot more capacity than what we have. And they should have a plan on that before,
Especially
Spring,
coming
I
to
would think.
Central High School.
or next year. I think they're gonna vote on it next year. They're talking about a central high school over there. If that were to come about, I would think they need a lot of sewer capacity for,
High school.
I'm just throwing that out there.
It's a good point, because they will have to do something.
They've been talking about this for the last 3 to 5 years. About Central High School and all this crap.
So, I don't know. You wanna table this until we get a little more information on this too? I mean, these were just, estimates, their opinion, and now we've got it. And, I mean, we can decide what we wanna do with it.
So you want to table, G?
The lift stations.
Table for future discussion,
Right.
because we're not really giving him, we're not giving you any particular direction at this point if we table it, unless,
Well, I think, like Herb said before, we should have the engineer here to be telling us.
Well, I'd like to hear about making it a wet well system and what
Right.
that does to this, and
That's a lot of money to spend on all this if we're gonna do something totally different.
I'll make a motion, we table it for future discussion.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion to table and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed, motion carries. Next, we have under new business H is appoint James Lalonde to the Board of Review.
I'll make a motion that we appoint James Lalonde to the Board of Review effective, is he gonna start right away?
Yeah,
Effective immediately. I think Jim will do a real nice job on that.
I'll support.
okay, we have a motion and a support to appoint James Lalonde to the Board of Review immediately. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to unfinished business, inspection services. The township manager and myself, mostly the township manager, has been interviewing, discussing, working on our building departments and our inspectors, trying to find out what, how they work, when they're available. We need to have somebody that is the head of the building department. We need to have somebody that's in charge of the zoning. Do you have any input to this, Cindy, or?
Well, there's a lot of research I'd like to do, just so that you make a good decision and not just a short-term decision. As you know, your current building inspector has taken a full-time position, and that caused some concern at the last board meeting. So I'd like to work through that discussion with him and see if it's an option for him to continue at any level. We've opened that conversation, and he seems open, as well as through his current full-time employer.
So he'll stay on as long as we need him right now until we make a decision, so, okay.
But there's quite a bit to it, and we got a lot of questions that we don't have answers to, and trying to come up with something that works for everybody.
Could you
We wa-
advertise it?
What's that?
Could you advertise it? That we're looking?
Well,
or
first,
you don't want to?
before we even do that, we want to make sure we know what we're advertising for. That seems to be our gray area. we've had questions that we really can't answer, like who does this, the zoning, you know, if somebody comes in and have zoning questions and, you know, who is that person? We don't think it should be the same person, it shouldn't be the building inspector. There's some things that we need to change around here as far as, you know, building permits and how you get them and what's on them. A lot having to do with grades. It's been up to that building inspector, but that's really the building department head that should be doing stuff like that. So that's what we're working on, and I think we'll have more to report on that in a week or, maybe the first meeting in December or something like that. So all I want to do is just discuss that. Does anybody have any questions about what we're talking about here with the, not just the building inspector, but the electrical, the mechanical, the plumbing, all of them? Cindy's interviewed all of them, and we're finding out a lot of stuff, so. And we'll make a direction on that later on. Okay, DTE was supposed to be here, but they didn't show up either, so. Announcements, the only thing I'd like to say, tomorrow's election day. Get out there and exercise your right to vote, so everybody should be crowded here tomorrow. We're hoping. As you can see, we got all the, Bob has got all the voting booths set up. That's all the announcements I have. We'll move on to board member comments. Mr. Pasalis?
Let me just get organized here. Okay. I just have a couple things. First of all, I want to congratulate the Marine City Mariner football team on a tremendous win they had last Friday against a very good Harper Woods team, which now advances them on to the regional. They'll be playing this Friday at 7 o'clock against Detroit Denby, another good team. So if you find yourself bored, nothing to do, please come and attend and hopefully see the Mariners win a regional championship. Also, St. Clair won their district, and they'll be playing Friday at Williamston. So good luck to both teams, and go Mariners. And like Larry said, everybody get out and vote tomorrow. Exercise your right and get out and get it done. And Wednesday, we have no more commercials. You don't have to see any more things on TV, and that'll be great.
Wearing this out. Good answer.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Boda?
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Freehand?
Just a comment about the election. We were one absentee ballot short of 700.
Oh, that many?
That many.
How many total voters do we have?
We have about 2,600 registered voters, but a typical election, even in a presidential election, is about 2,100. So 1/3 of the people, of the registered voters in a typical turnout in a presidential election have already voted absentee or applied for absentee ballots, which is an increase, a substantial increase from what we've typically had in the past.
Is that it then?
Yes.
I have nothing.
Thanks, Dennis. Claire?
I would like to say, we're really excited to turn the beautification committee over to the park commission. You know, we've tried to make the parks self-sustaining, but we thank you for taking it over. And I'd like to thank all the beautification members, you know, the volunteers over the past years have done a lot of work. The front looks beautiful. Thanks to everybody. And that's all.
What are you telling me?
I'm telling you that the beautification committee had their last meeting. We are turning everything over to the parks.
Okay. That's not a board action? I mean, what do
You
we
know
do with
what?
their money?
I-
I'm just asking you.
Was that something we were supposed to vote on?
I don't know. I don't know what the protocol on that is. Do you have any idea?
Do you have any bylaws for dispensation of assets?
There are assets. They do have money, right?
What's that?
They do have money. There's
Oh, yeah,
assets.
they both have
Yes,
budgets, yeah.
Yes, and we have leftover money. So we thought that's where you guide me. Maybe I'm doing something wrong.
Well, I don't know. That's the first I've heard that they were official. I heard there was talk that they were going to do that, but I haven't heard that it's officially done, and I don't know, I think we'll have to look that up and see if that's legal,
Oh,
is what
okay.
I'm looking at.
Okay,
And how it's being, what their parameters were, authorities were granted.
yeah, we just can't get any volunteers, and two of us can't keep doing all the parks.
Well, that's what I thought, it was gonna dissolve, but I didn't know, you know, that the park was going to take it over, I didn't.
We knew we were gonna have to do the maintenance in those parks so we're going to have either a landscape company or more help, or, our park help, taking care of the outside parks. We haven't really made a decision on that until we knew for sure, beautification was done. But if that all falls within our budget, we'll have to be looking, at what that's gonna cost. Rivera Park has been probably the worst, and I think the DPW through the winter is gonna help us with some of that. The north side of Rivera Park, there's, huge, vines and trees that grow over into the park. And actually Sandy Doctor and her family took care of that park, and they did all that trimming, all that cutting, and it was all volunteer help. The weeding, all the stuff down at the river park across from Regatta. All the weeding there has been done by the beautification commission. There's been a lot that they have done in the past, so the park commission is going to have to figure out how we're gonna take that over.
Well, that was my question, how are we transferring monies from one committee to another committee?
I didn't know that the money was being transferred yet. I asked for a little bit extra in the budget to kind of cover some of that when I talked with Corinne, and I think originally I gave Cindy the, kind of the proposed, wish list budget, but, it's gonna be a little bit to maintain those areas.
This will be a good time, Larry. I mean, we have our budget hearings coming up, because we established a budget for the beautification.
Correct.
And also established the budget for,
So that's what I'm saying, what do we do with that line item that we have? We have to eliminate that.
right, you'd have to eliminate that line
I
item.
think we did in the proposed budget, I think we eliminated that, because we knew it was gonna be
Yeah.
disbanded.
And Larry, I'm sorry, we couldn't tell you when we were dissolving because we were waiting to get all the trees in. We got a new tree over at Red Brick in the front done, so,
Well, we'll
Now
check
we're
into it
finished.
and make sure that it's all on the up and up.
yeah.
Okay, anything else, Kathy?
No, thank you.
I got a couple of things as usual. One thing on our next meeting, the sheriff, St. Clair County Sheriff has sent us their new, proposed contract for the next 2 years. They'd like to do a 2-year, I think you remember when Mr. Buckley was here, he asked for a 2-year contract to coincide with, China Township. We just started looking it over, Cindy and I, and, we're gonna have Mr. Buckley here at the next meeting, I would think, to explain it all. So, be looking for that on your next, packet. The other thing is, the locks here in the township hall. I mean, we've got, it's came to our attention that we don't know who's got keys, where they're at, what are number ones, what are number twos. Somebody came in with a number 2 and said it opens everything, and is it one, I don't know, we don't understand it, so, we're looking into right now changing all the locks. It hasn't been done, I don't know, how long you been here, Mr. Bo, did they ever change the locks?
No, I've been here 34 years and they've never given us new keys. So,
And the other thing we're looking at is to, probably do the alarm system so we can know who's coming in, you'll have a code, something like that. Haven't met with those people yet, but we will be. So, I guess what we're saying, we're not denying anybody a key, but we wanna have accountability about, who's got what key that's out there. I mean, we've had employees retire, we've had, like say 30-some years, there's gotta be a lot of keys floating around. So we're thinking it would be a security measure. And Cindy's really putting a lot on security, and I think we've been lax on it. We have never had any problems here and don't anticipate having any, but it's good to be prepared.
Right.
I don't think it'll be a large ticket item that we're talking about doing here. We were trying to figure it out today, what locks we really want to change. Really, we just need the inside door here and that back door.
The key I had opened the front door, opened the back door, and opened the door between the lobby and the office. Opened three things,
That's all the doors.
not the office doors.
Doesn't open that door, right?
Now, that door is separate just for
'Cause
rentals.
We tried Don's key and the other day, and it did not open.
It won't open,
No, it
that's
wouldn't
a,
open that door, just the front door, back door.
And what about the
lobby.
Red Brick School? Who's got keys to the Red Brick School?
I have no
We do.
idea.
Don does.
In the members do, we all do,
You all
Yeah.
have a key?
yeah.
I mean, we really want to, for security for our information that we have in the
Well, I
township
think
hall.
I think it's a great idea. I think they should be changed after all these years. God knows how many keys are out there.
We
And I-
don't know.
And I think the chapel too, because there's a lot of lawn equipment up there, and nobody knows who's going in and out.
Well, Blaine, you know how many keys are out for that, don't you?
I know how many keys that I've had, or my guys have had, but I don't know.
Have you changed locks up there or anything?
Or even change the code maybe.
So maybe our task is getting bigger.
The other place that there are keys to is the storage building behind the bathroom at River Park. And there were quite a few keys made and given out to beautification members, and I'm not sure if all those keys came back or if that's a concern. I don't have a key to that. Ed does, right? Because he mows the grass there. So we don't know who else has keys to that storage.
Are these
There is a
door
bunch of
locks,
them.
or are they padlocks, or are they door locks?
It's a regular lock with a key.
Is there a master key that you have, or just a,
And
That does not open that bathroom door though, right? Just the storage room? The bathroom door opens automatically.
well, when we get the locksmith, we'll probably do some more, dig a little deeper and get into more of the stuff. But right now, we want to concentrate on getting the township hall. That's really, I think, our security point. The other thing is, if you come here to the township hall, you're gonna find that the inside door is locked. You'll have to knock or have a key to get in.
To the office area.
That door right there is straight through,
Yeah, to the office area.
to get into the
See,
office.
that one I can get into now, my key.
Well,
That's
if
a
you can
good
get into
idea,
that,
Laura.
you can get into all the offices.
That's a good idea, locking that door.
And that's part of the security that,
I think when Sandy Smith was here, I tried my key in her office door, I don't think it worked.
it does. We tried them today. The master key, the key I have, I'm sure the key you have works on all those offices.
Didn't seem to.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyways, we're gonna get those looked into and, see what we absolutely need and maybe look into the alarm system. We've got problems with the alarm system for this room right now, so we wanna address the whole thing. So,
Larry,
that will be coming.
sorry.
What's that?
Over at the park, I think behind the bathrooms in that storage unit, there's just like a hose and an on and off switch to water the plants. I don't think there's
Yeah, there
anything
is not
stored
much
in there.
There isn't much in there, it's just that there are keys out.
Is this by the Marwood or the Regatta, is that what you're talking?
Right.
Right. Maybe we should change the name of that park to the Marwood Park. Everybody
Made more
knows
sense,
it.
that's what everybody knows about.
Yeah.
We did give, the canoe launch park a name at our last meeting, I don't know if you noticed that in your minutes.
Bell River Park.
To call it the Bell River Park, so it had a designated name. Because we wanna do signs at the, outside parks, the small parks. So,
Good, yeah, I seen that in your minutes.
so it needed a name.
Thank you for getting all your minutes in too.
They were here, I don't know why they didn't get put in your packets, so.
Okay, that's all I had, so then I guess motion to adjourn after we readjust the clock.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we haven't
I'll
changed that
make a
clock.
motion that we adjourn at, 8:39 by my watch.
Support.
And we have a motion to adjourn and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, we're adjourned, thank you. So we'll be seeing you on Monday or Tuesday, the 13th.